Hi there, it's me, your Queen Time Machine, Dr. Brent Bowers, and I promised you that I would do an upload regarding Hanukkah. This is that. This is the skinny on Hanukkah. And then I will do a separate one to talk about the shooting, the massacre at Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia, where I was at yesterday, actually 2 days ago, depending on how you count. And unfortunately, this is something that has not occurred in this decade on the island, on the continent, on the country of Australia. But before we talk about that negative incident, and it is, I want to say that this is all about 86,400. These are the number of seconds that we can stand in solidarity, 1 second at a time, changing the face of the planet. Why? Because we can. I'm never seeking permission. I'm just providing perspective. But also, because I have celebrated 2 birthdays in 1 year, I had to take some notes. Let me give you the skinny on Hanukkah. Then you're going to have to wait because I'm going to also provide the significance, not only in general, as I'm doing now, but in specificity, why we are dealing with an unfortunate attack where I'm asking you to stand with me in solidarity, simply for 1/10 of however long the video is that I post. Let me give you the skinny on Hanukkah. And forgive me in advance because I had to take notes and I'm going to have to look down to talk about some of this to ensure that I am getting it right. So, the meaning of Hanukkah is deliverance from oppression. It also means dedication and to teach, which is what I'm doing now for some of you. But remember, I'm always a student before I'm a teacher. So, those of you who can teach me, I enjoy being the student. I hope that you enjoy allowing me to be the teacher. So initially, this occurred in the 2nd century BC, around 160 BC to be exact, long after the canonizing of the Torah. Therefore, Hanukkah is not considered one of the major Jewish festivals, as we're used to with Passover, with Yom Kippur, and with Rosh Hashanah. However, Hanukkah is still important nonetheless, and it is one of the winter festivals. So it is often in the same month as Christmas for Christian celebrators and also for those of African descent that celebrate Kwanzaa. Often Hanukkah can cross some of those days, and I'm going to give you some specific years where we've seen that occur and where it will occur in the future. The book of Maccabees is where this important holiday is documented. However, the book of Maccabees is only in the Orthodox Catholic Bible, also in the Apocrypha, but Hanukkah is referenced in our traditional Bible. In the Gospel according to St. John, Jesus actually references it in the 10th chapter of John in the 22nd verse, where he says, Jesus was at Jerusalem, the feast of the dedication, and that rededication, and it was winter. So therefore it refers to that feast of the dedication is Hanukkah. So even though it's not in the Torah, remember Hanukkah is still considered a mitzvah, and a mitzvah is considered a commandment, is considered a good deed, is considered an act of kindness that can be done to connect people with people and also to connect people with God. It is celebrated based on the lunar calendar of the Hebrew calendar, starting on the 25th day of the month of Kislev, which we are in right now in the Hebrew calendar. It lasts for 8 days and it always starts at sundown. So in 2025, the dates for Hanukkah are sundown, Sunday, December 14th. In Australia, that was yesterday, through sundown, Monday, December 22nd. Sundown, Sunday, December 14th. In America, where I am right now, means it started just a couple hours ago. Seleucid, the Greek Empire, which was led by Antiochus IV Epiphanes in that 2nd century BC, he oppressed the Jews and he tried to force Hellenism on them, which included worshiping the Greek idols, specifically the Greek god of Zeus, and also the sacrificing and consuming of pigs, which was against the Jewish laws and traditions. They then destroyed the Jewish temple. There were many attempts to overthrow Antiochus IV. Actually, his father was more favorable with the Jews, but the successor was not. And then also, there was then from this small tribe, if you will, the Maccabees, Judas Maccabee, who took over after his father had attempted and had failed. Judas Maccabee then got a small group of warriors together, which were known as the Maccabees, and they went against Antiochus IV, and they actually destroyed and they won. And they had to go back then and rebuild the temple and also rebuild all of the sacred items that had been destroyed by Antiochus IV and his regime. So, in doing so, they recognized that they needed about 8 days of light, which required 8 days of oil. Once they got back into the temple, they discovered they only had about 1 day of oil left, specifically in the menorah. And I will talk about the construct of that menorah shortly. So with the menorah, they needed this 8 days of oil, only had one, but miraculously, that 1 day's worth of oil lasted for 8 days. And because of that, the candelabra that was known as the menorah, which initially was a 7-branched candelabra, so it had 2 sets of 3 candles on each side, total of 6, and then one in the middle called the shamash. Because that 1 day's worth of candle miraculously burnt for 8, they ended up creating a 9-branch candelabra, which then added an additional 2 candles, one on each side, because of the miracle of 8 days of light and 8 days of burning. That is now called the Hanukkah, or still often referred to as the menorah for Hanukkah, and it burns accordingly. So typically this 9-branch candelabra, still referred to as the menorah, used during Hanukkah, here's how it's burned for the 8 days. The middle candle is referred to as the shemash, and that is considered the servant candle. It is used to light all the other candles each night at sundown from right to left, just like the Hebrew language is written. Therefore, it's a total of 44 candles that are lit over the 8 days. Another miracle, because 4 plus 4 is 8. So all of this continuousness of creation and new beginnings. As you follow me, you will learn about the meaning of numbers. So on day 1, you had 2 candles lit, the shamash plus 1. Day 2, 3 candles lit, the shamash plus 2. Day 3, 4 candles, the shamash plus 3, so on and so forth until we get down to day 8, where there are 9 candles burnt, the shamash plus 8. 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 equals 44. So now when you buy a set of candles for menorah, it typically includes those 44 candles with a distinct one that may be black in color as the shamash, or the servant candle that's used every night to light the others from right to left. Then you also have a dreidel, which is this 4-sided spinning top, and gelt, which is gold-covered chocolate candy. And then gifts. Gifts came in really more because of the crossing of the other holiday celebrations, in particular Christmas, but not necessarily part of the tradition. Those 4, the dreidel, the 4 sides of the dreidel, each had a Hebrew and has a Hebrew letter on it. One is Nun, one is Gamel, one is Hey, and one is Pei. We're actually in the decade of Pei right now. Pei means here, Or it may be a nun, a gamel, a hey, and a shin. And shin means there. Well, what's the difference? If you're in Israel and you buy a dreidel, then the 4 letters spell a great miracle happened here. But if you're outside of Israel and you purchase a dreidel, then the 4 sides spell a great miracle happened there. And also, what is celebrated during this time are fried foods. Why? Because of the oil that was there as a miracle. So, fried foods, you have the potato cakes, which are called lichkas. They're often filled with sour cream or applesauce. And then also, there are fried donuts called sufganiyats. So, there's a lot of fried food involved during these 8 days, but you can also do mitzvahs, so you can share those fried potato cakes and fried jelly donuts. So if one of our brother, sister, Jewish friends offer to us, we should receive welcomely because it is an honor. The colors of Hanukkah are blue and white because those are the colors found on the Israeli flag, generally associated with the Jewish holiday, representing their pride and also the identity of their people. Now, let me give you a couple of final facts regarding Hanukkah. It can be spelled different ways, but it's always pronounced Hanukkah. Whether it starts with a CH, whether it has 2 Ks, whether it has 3 Ns, it's still pronounced Hanukkah. Harry Truman was the first U.S. president to celebrate Hanukkah at the White House, and that was in 1951 when he accepted a menorah as a gift from the Prime Minister of Israel at that time, David Ben-Gurion. And the 30-foot tall menorah is lit every year in Washington, D.C., and it requires a cherry picker to light the shamash, that middle candle. The largest menorah in the United States was designed by Yaakov Adam, and it is 36 feet tall, and it stands on 5th Avenue and 59th Street at Grand Army Plaza near Central Park in Manhattan. Now, in 1993, astronaut Jeff Hoffman celebrated Hanukkah in space. He brought a travel-sized menorah and spun a dreidel while on Space Shuttle Endeavour to restore the Hubble Space Telescope. Lastly, I want you to know that the first evening of Hanukkah has fallen on Christmas, December 25th, several times, including in 1910, 1921, 1959, 2005, 2024, and the next 2 will be in 2035 and 2054. This is the skinny on Hanukkah. Now, this particular post has lasted almost 13 minutes, so I'm asking you if you will give me 90 or 1 minute and 30 seconds of solidarity where you're committing to stand with me so that 1 second at a time we can restore peace, we can eliminate poverty, we can eliminate homelessness, we can eliminate hunger, we can eliminate violence, we can restore peace if all of us, almost 9 billion people on the planet, if we would all just give a tenth, a tithe of the length of time of the post that I'm providing you, as we represent the kingdom time zone, as we represent God's clock. It is creation's watch, and on our watch, I'm asking you only for a portion of your 86.4. Why? Because we can stand in solidarity 1 second at a time, simply because we can. Now I'm going to come back and tell you why this beautiful, victorious celebration made a turn that none of us are going to accept as the end, because we are restoring the celebration. I'm asking you to celebrate Hanukkah with me. I'm going to show you a menorah in this next video. I'm going to show you a dreidel in this next video. And we're going to turn what, yes, is a bloody massacre, and there are people who have lost their loved ones. But we stand in solidarity 1 second at a time, simply because we can. Until soon, it's just me, Agape, and Shalom.